All right. Very good morning, very good evening, everyone. Uh, we have already passed 4 minutes. Good to start. I just given a little bit of extra time to others to join. We are at a good time now. Let's get started. Right. Uh, Welcome everyone for this database administration workshop. Uh, the the reason behind I basically call this particular course as a workshop rather than just a course like normal traditional database course or the DBA course, the other institute who will conduct. I don't want to call it as a course because I want everyone to do a hands-on, and along with that, whatever the theoretical part, whatever we're going to teach here, everything will be like displayed in the form of practical lab exercise with the example of real-time world as a DBA, what we do in day in and day out for any of the client. If I'm working as a DBA for any of the client, and pretty much as a DBA, what I'll do it in their environment, everything will be covered here as a live demonstration with a real-time example. That's why I would like to call it as a workshop rather than the just a course. That's a agenda behind that, calling it as a database administration workshop. Right. With that, what I'll do now, today and tomorrow are the demo classes. I will just start with a couple of points. Um, Basically, I'll start with the introduction about me and followed by a course curriculum and followed by this course durations, timings, and fee structures, and followed by whatever the Google Drive access, and then what are the importance on that particular Google Drive, how we're gonna make use of those Google Drive course content, course curriculum, and then how we're gonna proceed further with the classes, because since these are the two demo classes will be just a public link and followed by we'll be having a private links. We'll be using those private links for attending the daily classes. And then about the WhatsApp group, all the communications will be going through the WhatsApp group, and then we will make sure that all the questions or queries posted on the particular WhatsApp group. We'll talk about that and what are the prerequisites for this particular course, and followed by some of the important topics like your database architecture and standalone versus rack and the connectivity to your database. As part of these demo sessions, we'll cover a few of the topics. This is the agenda for today and tomorrow. We'll start with the introduction about me and then we'll cover some of the important topics for this particular course. So during the course of these two demo classes, I allowed everyone to unmute. So if you have any questions or queries, you can stop me and then you can unmute yourself and ask any questions. It doesn't matter whether it's a simple questions or a complex. We'll try to answer all of them. All right. I hope like most of you guys are already gone through the course curriculum, but nevertheless, I'm gonna explain it one more time. Let's start with the first topic, that is introduction about me. I'm having overall around 15 years of experience in this IT industry. All these 15 years, I purely worked on Oracle database products. Uh, After my graduation, I started as a junior Oracle DBA with iGet Global Solution, and then followed by I moved to Oracle India Private Limited, where I worked as a senior Oracle DBA, and followed by EXA group of companies, and then some of the insurance domain, some of the finance domain, and some of the e-commerce domain. And I worked on various organizations all these 15 years. And my primary skill throughout these 15 years is Oracle. Being Oracle is my primary domain. I learned most of the Oracle product, starting with the core Oracle database administration, rack expert, golden gate expert, data guard expert, and also I learned most of the Oracle engineering systems, Exadata, Exalogic, Supercluster, Oda. These are like all the engineering system. I got a chance to work on them. I worked and certified on those areas, and also I worked on some of the application products provided by Oracle, like your EBS. e-business suites. That's one of the enterprise application. And then followed by OBI. Again, that's a data warehouse application provided by Oracle. And then PeopleSoft Soha. These are like application products. I worked on those products as well. Uh, Oracle being a primary domain, I worked most of those Oracle products, and most of them are like certified. And then also I got a chance to work on Oracle Cloud OCI. I worked for a few of the clients' migration projects, and also I certified in those OCI Cloud. So these are like my core fundamental primary skills. Oracle is being a primary domain for me. And having said that, I do have other uh, expertises other than Oracle product. Like I know I worked on Microsoft MS SQL, SAP HANA, DB2, PostgreSQL, and MySQL. So these are my secondary database skills. So I got a chance to work on that. I learned and then I implemented of all the installation, configuration, administration. That is my secondary skills. And then many of the questions or many of when I interact with many of my friends or junior DBAs or colleagues, one of the common question they will ask is the cloud is good at market, cloud is booming, and there's a risk of DBA jobs. Is it good point or is it a good to start cloud technologies? Yes, of course. As a DBA, you need to learn cloud technologies. It's not necessarily Oracle Cloud. It may be anything. It may be your AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, anything. It's a good starting point for the DBAs. We have to learn cloud technologies, being all uh, the enterprise, small startup companies or the mid cap businesses. Everything they are all interested to go on a cloud technologies because they are not in a financial situation to offer their infrastructure. If the big enterprises, the big companies who are already settled and they are like you know managing their own infrastructure and they're willing to pay for that maintenance of their infrastructure, but considering the small companies or mid range of companies, the financial factor is very important for them, and they would like to go with the cloud technologies. Any startup you can say they all will be based upon the cloud technologies and SaaS platform. So for the DBAs, learning the cloud technologies is very important. And with that, with saying that, I do worked on AWS and Azure, and also certified in this AWS and Azure. I did some migration of databases to AWS and Azure. That's my other secondary skills in the cloud technologies. And then other common questions many people will ask is, DevOps is also one of the good strategy in the market. Is it a good worth DBA to learn DevOps? Again, a single person cannot expertise in all the areas. You have to choose your one of the primary skills. For me, Oracle is a primary skills. In Oracle world, any technologies or being any product, I'm good at that. And that's my core fundamental primary skills. I prefer to work on that areas. And along with that, this cloud technologies is just a add-ons, which will help me for, showcasing myself and uh, learning the new projects and, getting the opportunities on working on the new projects. Because of that, I learned all these cloud technologies and others. And coming to this DevOps, yes, good. So if you learn the DevOps, that will help you for your primary skills. Whatever your Oracle being a primary skills, to do automation, to do a manage, and to do your day-to-day activities in automated manner, in a quicker, faster manner. If you learn the DevOps, that will gonna be one of the added advantages. So with that, I did learn few of the DevOps technologies like Kubernetes and Jenkins and Dockers and Terraforms and so many other. There will be like DevOps is a vast and you cannot learn everything. Whatever you needed for the automation, and with the help of Dockers, you can do all this creation of your databases and patching your databases. All those small automations, you can do it. So whatever needed for your day-to-day activities and to do your job easily, and if that technology is helping you, go ahead and learn that. So I did learn few of the DevOps tools and technologies, which is going to help me for further automation in my day-to-day activities. Right, that is overall my entire 15 years of IT experience, not being the stick to Oracle domain, I did expose other products, other areas, and other technologies just to being helpful for my day-to-day activities. And then out of this 15 years of my IT experience, I did worked on various organization. Especially, I worked two major organization. One is being insurance sector, and one is being the finance sector. And out of these two major insurance and finance sector, I got a chance to do two major activities in my lifetime. One is building a entire data center from the scratch. One of the insurance domain, I did a entire data center built from the scratch. Uh, Entire their old legacy databases, we redesigned and we rebuilt entire data center for them. That was the long-term project. Almost it took around nearly 2.5 years. That is one of the major project I did it in my career. And the other major project what I did it in my career is uh, entire data center migration from Washington DC to New Jersey. There is a Oracle Exadata engineering system with the e-business suites applications along with the OBI. So we did the entire Exadata migration along with the e-business suites application migration, all their entire infrastructure, thousands of servers, migration from Washington DC to New Jersey. That is the with a minimal downtime. That's the other major project. What we did it that took around almost 1 year, almost 8 months to 1 year. That's a 1 year project, and one is a new data center build that took almost 2 years. So these are like two major projects what I did it in my career. And along with that, there are so many day-to-day activities like database upgradation, migration, and Exadata implementation. These are like common activities. We did it more than hundred thousands of database installation, configuration, rack setup, DR setup, upgradation, patching. Those are like more than hundred and thousands. Right. So that is overall summary about me. With this entire 15 years of IT experience, got a chance to work on various technologies, various products, and also got a chance on, expose myself on the other than Oracle product, not sticking to the Oracle product, got a chance to expose on the other database technologies and other uh, products. And with that, I got a full exposure till the infrastructure level. I worked as an infrastructure lead as well as senior DBA and the lead DBA and Oracle Exadata administrator, DMA, various roles I was able to handle it in my career. Right, so that's a quick intro about me. I hope most of you guys are aware about me, but who are new, just a intro of who I am and then what are my primary skills, right? Right. So yeah, as I said, you can feel free to unmute and ask any questions in the course of when I'm explaining it. If you are not able to understand or want to clarify any questions or queries, feel free to unmute and ask any questions. If not, feel free to use the Zoom chat here. You can post any questions. I'll be monitoring the Zoom chat. I'll take that question and then I'm happy to answer that. All right. Let's move on to the second point. Very important because we are all here to understand this course and learn this course and start our career as a Oracle DBA. So the second point, understanding this course curriculum, what is covered in this particular database workshop and what is not covered. If not covered, are we going to cover it as few extra topics? So all we're going to talk it here. So for this course curriculum, probably you might have already gone through that course curriculum. So here's the link. Right. The course curriculum, you can either go to my blog and then go to training section, go for this database, or directly go to this particular database -training.html. And directly I'll jump onto this course curriculum, what is included in this particular course curriculum. We'll start with the environmental setup. We are gonna do end-to-end setup on the individual laptop. We are not gonna do anything on the cloud, or we're not gonna provide any of the lab. So everything will be done, all the setup in the individual laptop using the virtual machine. we're going to use the virtual machines, Oracle virtualization, and then we're going to set up the lab in that. We'll try with the setting up of the lab. That's the environmental details. We're going to understand that how we're going to set up a lab, followed by the network setup. Once you set up your Linux servers and labs, and then how you're going to access them by setting up proper IP addresses and all. And followed by, we'll start with the uh, installation of databases. So we'll compare various versions 11G, 12C, 19C. So this course is pretty much based upon 19C database version. So this course is for 19C database version, but prior to 19C version, so we'll try to understand what are the differences in the installation comparison with 11G, 12C, 19C. So we'll compare them, and then once we compare, and then we'll start with understanding 19C architecture, right? So we'll try to create our 11G, 12C, 19C databases, and then what are the differences in the installation when it comes to 11G, 12C, 19C, what are the various changes are occurred, we'll understand them, and we'll create a database in the manual method or GUI method. Like sometimes you will not be able to get a GUI screen with a command line only, we need to install those databases and the installation. So we'll try to understand those command line installation and the GUI graphical user interface mode of installation. And followed by, we'll understand the entire architecture of 19C database. And at the same time, we'll try to understand what has been changed between 11G to 12C, from 12C to 19C. So basically, 11G is a traditional architecture and 12C is a multi-tenant architecture. We added the entire architecture got changed from 11G to 12C. We'll understand that the changes between 11G to 12C, that multi-tenant architecture. And then what are new features are added in 19C. We'll continue with that. But that's about the architecture. And in the chapter number 7, we'll try to understand the administration part for my database, how I can do shutdown, startup, what are the different files of my database, my SP file, P file, control file, redo log files, data files, and archive log files, and the trace file, alert files. What are these? And then how I can manage all of them, and what are the storage structure of my database, how a table is going to store it inside my database, like logical and physical structure of my database. When it comes to logical, you may deal with your data blocks, extent, segment, table space, and those table spaces are mapped to your physical data files, and how I can correlate if particular user creates a table or insert a data, how the data will flow inside my database. So we'll all understand in this chapter number 8, that is a different logical and physical structure of my database. And in the administration part, when we talk about architecture part, we're going to talk about all the instances, all the database details in the instances, what are the memory structures, what are the background processes, all we're going to cover here, chapter number 6, 7, and 8. It's all about understanding of entire database architecture and administration. And chapter number 9 is about the ASM. So very, very important. ASM is a automatic storage management. ASM stands for automatic storage management. Oracle strongly, highly recommends your database has to be run on ASM storage, because ASM has a lot of advantages. Your mirroring, striping, one of the storage flexibility, and your storage dependency we can avoid. So dependency on the storage team or the storage admin we can avoid. As a DBA, we can manage our own storage system. So we'll understand the ASM architecture, and in the course of that ASM architecture, once you understand ASM architecture, how you can install the ASM first. And once you install the ASM, how you can provision the storage. That's basically a disk groups. And once the storage is provisioned, how you can create a database on top of that ASM, and then how you can manage your data files inside the storage. So all will understand in this ASM architecture and then the administration. And in the chapter number 10, it's all about multi-tenancy. As I said in the chapter number 6, the 11G is a legacy old architecture, and in the 12C we have introduced with the multi-tenant architecture. So that architecture continued with to 19C, continued to 21C, and your 23C and all. So let's understand here, you have a 11G database, you have 11G database, that is a normal database, normal DB we can call it as a traditional architecture. And in the 12C, when you're creating a 12C database, it's going to ask you two options, whether you want to create it as a normal database or multi-tenant database. Because in 12C, they introduced the new architecture, normal database architecture or multi-tenant architecture. While creation of your 12C database, it's going to give you option whether you want to follow the old architecture or the new architecture. So that option introduced in the 12C. And the same thing is carried out in 19C. Whether you are creating the 19C database, it'll ask whether you want to create a normal database or multi-tenant database. That is fair enough. And what is the use of this new architecture, multi-tenant architecture they introduced here? And then why they're giving two options here? That is just to like backward compatibility. In 19C and 12C, they given that option. But starting with the 21C, you don't have any option. The moment you create your database, it's a multi-tenant database. It's a CDBs and PDBs. Multi-tenant architecture is nothing but your CDB container database and PDB pluggable database. 21C onwards, it's all about multi-tenant architecture. There's no normal database architecture, and the old traditional architecture is gone forever. And we never ever get a chance to look into that. It's all about multi-tenant architecture, starting with the 21C, 23C. Whatever the future focus from the Oracle is all about multi-tenant architecture. It's all about CDBs and PDBs. So we need to understand in and out about this multi-tenant architecture, and we need to understand entire PDBs and CDBs architecture and how it's going to work. And as a DBA, we have to learn that, we have to understand that, because all the customers will be going to migrate into all the multi-tenant architecture for going forward, right? That is the one of the key foundation. That's why we kept chapter number 10 is full of multi-tenant architecture. We're going to cover everything over there. Chapter number 11 is about networking, your SQL net.ora, TNS name.ora, listener name.ora, and then how my TNS connections works, and what are my listeners, local listeners, remote listener, and what are the parameter I can set it inside my database. And this is very important. When you're working as a DBA, you are going to get hundreds of requests, and many of the development teams will going to say that I'm unable to connect to my database. It says TNS lost contact, and my listener is down, my TNS is down. So a lot of things, a lot of issues. So we're going to understand everything in this chapter number 11. Chapter number 12 is about the user management, creation of users, assigning the privileges, and assigning the quotas, and monitoring the user for user activities. So this is very important. You are going to get day in and day out when you're working as a DBA. So people will send out, can you create a new user similar to user A? Can you create a user B similar to user A? And we have to understand what are the privileges, what are the permissions, what are the access that user A has, and we have to grant the same thing to user B and create that user. So we'll talk about the user management and the profiles and the schemas and the users and the privileges and the roles and the permissions and the quotas, everything related to the user. And chapter number 13, 14, 15 is all about backups and recovery. So believe me, for any organizations, backups and recovery is one of the key element for their business continuity. You have to set up a strong backup and recovery strategy, because we don't know when the disaster scenario occurs for your data center. Your data center is running under one of the uh, place, say it's running under your London data center, and anything happens on your London data center, any disaster happens, it may be earthquake, fire, or flood, or anything happens, and you have to continue to run your business. You don't have a time for next 1 year to build a new data center and then run your business. So quickly you have to restore your database using the backup and continue to run your business. So one of the your backups and recovery strategy, we call it as RTO and RPO. So backups and recovery is going to be one of the key foundation or primary strategy for your business continuity. So we're going to talk about some of the old traditional backup method like cold backup and the user managed backups, and followed by RMAN backup, because RMAN is being one of the automated tool provided by Oracle. most of the enterprise customer willing to use a RMAN as a preferred primary tool for backups and recoveries. So we'll talk about that RMAN backups and recoveries. And the cloning is going to be one of the common activities for the DBAs, because many times your developer or testing team will always request, can you clone the latest production backup into development? Can you build a new test database from the latest production backup? So cloning you are going to talk about. There is a various methods of cloning, with backup, without backup, with active database duplication and restore recover method, RMAN duplicate, RMAN cloning until time. There's so many methods for this cloning. We're going to explore all of them in this cloning. It's all about your backups and recovery, these three chapters. And chapter number 16 is about patching. So patching is going to be one of the common activities for the DBAs, because Oracle will releases 4 patches in 1 year. So typically that is called your the security patches or the critical patch update, CPU patches. So Oracle will release typically on Jan and April and July and October. So these are the 4 quarterly patches Oracle will releases, and these are very critical and security bug fixes and vulnerability bug fixes provided by Oracle. And you have to apply these patches in order to keep your database in compliance and make use of those all the security bug fixes are addressed. So we have to apply these patches on the grid, on the ASM, on the database, and on the Oracle software, on the Oracle binaries. And then we have a various tool to apply these patches, opatch and opatch auto. And then once you apply, how minimal downtime we can apply, with the minimal downtime, how we can apply these patches. So we'll talk about this patching in this chapter number 16. Chapter number 17 is about database upgrades. So as I said, 11G is the end of support. There is no more further support by Oracle. Any customer who is running with a 11G database, they had to upgrade it to 12C and followed by 19C. So 12C again, it's going to be end of support very soon. It's already reached. It's going to be end of support. There's no more support for 12C databases very soon by Oracle. And 19C is the longest support by Oracle, up to 2027, up to 2027. Another 4 years, another 4 to 5 years, Oracle is going to support your 19C. Many customers who are in 11G or 12C, they have to upgrade to 19C database, any cost without miss, and followed by 21C and 23C. Whatever you are willing to upgrade, you can follow that one. Again, 21C is not a accurate release, that's a innovation release just for testing. And 23C is just a beta release by Oracle. And these two are like under still under testing or some innovation phase. So no customers are willing to go here, but most of the customers are willing to go to 19C database, because that is the longest support by Oracle. Oracle is promised to support till 2027, next 4 to 5 years, right? So any customer who are in 11G and 12C, they had to upgrade it to 19C, right? So if anybody new, they may be getting confused with what is this 11G, 12C, 19C. These are like the database versions. We'll talk more on that in our actual classes. But yeah, these are like versions, your database versions. Right, so these upgradations, we're going to talk about here, how we can upgrade from 11G to 19C, 12C to 19C, or it may be anything. We have typically 5 methods of upgradation. In the command line, I can say silent method or GUI method. In the GUI method, we have a DBUA. We have DBUA, database upgrade assistant. Database upgrade assistant is one of the GUI method to your database upgrade. And we have a SQL command line upgrade. That's your cat upgrade.sql. And we have a second method, Perl script. With the help of Oracle provided Perl script, you can do your with the command line database upgrade from 11G to 19C. Third method, we have a shell script. Again, Oracle provided shell script. With help of shell script, we can do a database upgrade from 11G to 12C. And in the 19C, we have a new feature that's called auto upgrade. With help of this auto upgrade, this is a 19C new feature. If you're upgrading from 11G to 19C or 12C to 19C, use this auto upgrade. That's a new feature provided by 12C, sorry, 19C. So that's your fifth method. So you can choose any one of this database upgrade method to do this database upgradation from 11G to 12C or 12C to 19C or 11G to 19C, various versions. Any version changes, it's called as upgrade. Right, that is will be covered as chapter number 17. Chapter number 19 is your data guard, your primary and standby. So here it's going to be one of the important uh, chapter or the topic. We have a primary database. We're going to build the standby database. This is your production primary database and this is your standby database. We're going to build from the primary database to the new standby database, and we'll do that continuous log shipping from the primary to standby. Whatever the transactions are happening on primary, we'll continue to monitor on the standby side how the log shipping is going to happen. And in case if your standby goes out of sync, how we're going to rebuild your standby, and then how we can do a DR drill. We call it as a DR drill. Basically, you're going to convert your standby database as a primary database and primary database as a standby database, and you're going to start the log shipping from the primary to new standby reverse direction. That's the DR drill. And there's so many questions comes across this primary and standby. If your DR or the standby goes out of sync, how will make it sync? And how you can rebuild your standby, and what are the different types of standby database, what are the different modes of standby database, what is DR drill activity, how you can do the switchover and failover. It's all the common questions come across this primary and standby. That will be covered in chapter number 18. Right, and then followed by shell scripting. So this is going to be one of the basics of shell scripting. With help of the shell scripting, how we can do our day-to-day activities and we can make it as automation. Because every day once we log into our shift, any of the shift you work for any organization or any client, you have to do certain checks whether your database is up and running, whether your listeners up and running, your DR is synced with primary or not. All those checks, if you do it, it will take you for minimum 3 to 4 hours in a day. So every day, why you want to do all those checks manually? Write a small shell script and run it once you log into your shift. That is going to give you all the report, and then you can read it in just 5-10 minutes. So shell script is one of the very important aspects for the DBAs to do a small monitoring activities and automate them, and they're going to save a lot of time. So understanding the shell script, we're going to cover some of the basics of shell script, and we'll start writing some of the automation scripts for my database monitoring activities. And export and import. So whatever we talked about here, this RMA and cloning, it's all about physical entire database building. So your developers will ask like, I have production, this is my production database and this is my development database. In the production database, we have this employee table, and development team is doing some testing on this development environment. They want this particular the latest copy of this employee table. So we do not have any physical understanding of tables, right? This is a logical architecture inside my database. So I don't have an option to copy that particular table from the production database to development database. So how I can manage this logical component? It may be data file, or it may be table space, or it may be users. So these are internal inside your database logical component. So these logical components, I cannot use a RMAN to do a backup and restore it on development database. For that, we have export and import. With the help of this export and import, I can do a table level export and import it on my development database with a table space level export and import, with a user level export and import. Right. So there are a lot of options with the export and import. We are going to talk about most of them are like a table level or the user level export and import. That's a logical component. So one of the important day-to-day activities for most of the DBAs, because your database is of your production database is of, let's say, 50 terabyte. Right, and then 50 terabyte, out of this 50 terabyte, your developers want only one table which is of just 1 GB. That is like employee table. One way is you can drop your development database, take this entire 50 terabyte of backup and restore it over there. That's going to be tedious job. just for a single table, we don't do that entire database backup and restore, right? So instead of that, we use this export and import. Just take that single table alone and then restore it on your development database. So you don't need to spend a lot of time to do entire database restore and recover using Arman. So for that, we come up, Oracle has this tool called export and import. Do the logical object export, like, export of a table or the table space or the user from the production database and restore it in any other database. It will understand them, and then how we can improve that. One of the common questions in the interview, like, my export and import are slow. What are the parameters I can make speed up my export and import? So we'll talk about all of them. And in the chapter number 21, it's talk about new features. Uh, all the 12C and 19C new feature, will talk about them. And chapter number 22 is about your performance tuning. If the queries are running slow, my database is not performing good, and what are the reports? Basically, we do AWR report, ADDM report, ASH report. How we can generate those report and how we can analyze them, how to read them. And once you read this report, and what are your next action plans? It may be your index rebuild, gather stats on the table level, schema level, and some of the uh, your invalid indexes, or some of the SQL profiling, or it may be patching, or it may be table move or table shrink. After you generate the AWR report, once you read them, and these are going to be your recommendations: index rebuild, or the table gather stats, or the schema gather stats, or the table move, or the table shrink, or it may be SQL profiling, or tuning your SQL queries. It may be anything. So once you do a thorough analysis of your performance tuning report, may basically AWR report, ADDM report, and ASH report, and you are going to recommend various options. Like few of them are index rebuild, gather stats, table stats, schema stats, and table move, table shrink, or your SQL profiling, any of that. And then followed by, we're going to talk about some of the real-time experience and how we're going to deal with this particular scenario. Query is running slow, my insert is running slow, my update is running slow, and then what are the actions you're going to take it. Right, so that's overall about the chapter number 25, which will cover about the course which is formed based upon the need. Like, this is a course is formed based upon my experience, what is needed as a DBA to support a particular client. I formed this particular course structure, and with that, we'll be covering some of the extra topics here. Chapter number 26 is about resume writing and cover letter preparation. Because once we understand end to end about the database architecture, our next job will be, next task will be, we'll be looking for some better opportunities, or we'll be looking for a new change, or the new role, or new opportunities, or the job change. So we'll be understanding about resume writing and cover letter. I'll go over my own resume and cover letter. I'm sure like most of the DBAs will not be aware of cover letter. We don't ever send cover letter until you are using it. But most of them are like, we don't understand what is the importance of cover letter. So we'll talk about this cover letter and resume writing, and what are the important points you need to incorporate in our resume and cover letter, and followed by interview questions. So each and every topic we'll talk about what are the common interview questions and answers. And at the end of the session also, we'll be overall covering what are the important questions we'll be expecting. So we'll review all of those questions. And last, chapter number 28 is a mock interview. It is just subjected to everyone individual interest. So you can register for this mock interview. So I'll be connecting with you one to one, where I will take a interview where it's a kind of a real time interview. I'll be like asking questions and you'll be answering it. And if you're making any mistake, I'll be taking a note of that. End of the session, I'll be giving you the hints how you could have made better in that particular situation. Right? Some certain situation, your interview panel, they will ask, can you explain about migration? So you might not be worked and you will not be aware of that. So you say that I don't know. So if you say I don't know, that's a negative impression. Instead of that, how in a polite manner, how in a uh, you know different manner, like, I did not get a chance to work on my career. based upon my client. So I'll be happy to take that opportunity to learn and understand and then implement that if at all I get opportunity to work on your organization. So they're like you can make a constructive or like some of the phrases rather than saying no, I did not work on that, I have not, I don't know. So you can construct that in a assertive manner and then you can give a response. So all those points will be covering if you are interested to join a mock interview. It is subjected to your own interest. That's not a mandatory task, right? So that's a overall about the course curriculum, what is planned in this course, and there are some of the important keynotes. We're going to talk about that now. So I'll just pause for a minute if anyone has any questions or queries so far. Right?
Yeah, hi Malik. This is Kumar speaking. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So Malik, thank you for giving an overview of the course. So my question is that would there be any support or a guidance for completing any Oracle DBA certification? Can you just glance us
We'll
about the
talk
various
about that.
certifications that Oracle is offering?
That will be covered. That will be at the end of the course. We have basically three important topics: OCA and OCP and rack expert. And then we're going to talk about all these three certificates.
Okay, so is there any prerequisites for joining this course, Malik? Because I'm not an no database admin and I'm no way related to database,
We're
but
going to
I
talk
really
about
want to
here.
learn it
We're
just
going to talk
because
about this chapter.
my
We're going to talk about in chapter number 7 here in a minute. What are the prerequisites?
okay,
Right.
okay, cool.
Right. Any questions so far on the course curriculum or the any topics? Maybe like there are few topics not included. For example, OEM. Many people ask what is OEM. That's your what are the one of the enterprise tool to manage your database. The Golden Gate. Those are like advanced topics, so will not be covered here. But if based upon the interest, will be covered it as an extra topic, but not guaranteed. Right? There may be many things other advanced topics like auditing, your security or licensing. So those are like advanced topics. Obviously, will not be here in this particular database course. Right. So that's about the course curriculum what we just covered. Again, believe me, this is the course content I personally prepared based upon my overall 15 years of experience as a DBA, what we work on day basis. Based upon that, I put down all this, and what is not needed, I just removed it, and what is needed, even though it is a advanced topic, I included over here. Just to be like, as a DBA, I want to be the course content as equivalent as comparison as equal to my real time experience. So that's why I formed this particular course. Let's going further now. If you're
Hello,
in,
Malik,
hello, good
one more
morning. Good
question.
morning, Malik. Actually, I have a mic machine. So, there is any possibility to installation? You can help me on the mic machine live setup and all.
we'll check it out. We'll come to that point in the again in the chapter number point number 7. I'm going to talk about that.
Malik, one more question. Will you be giving us any documentation over during this course or after this course?
Yes, point number 4. I'm going to talk about that documentation. We'll be
Okay,
having
okay.
all the Google Drive access where you can see your PPT, workbook, lab exercise, and all the softwares, all the ready labs. Everything will be available in the Google Drive. You'll get everything.
Is it a permanent
Hello.
access, Malik,
Hi.
or any deadline to it?
Yes,
Hello. Are you providing a recorded session?
yes. We'll
Malik,
talk on
is it
that.
a permanent access or is there any
It's a permanent
deadline to that
access.
access?
It's a lifetime access.
Okay.
Let's glance here quickly. He'll answer all these questions. If I cover these 3 points, you'll understand all this. It'll be clarify all your questions. Let's quickly go on this third point, that course duration and fee structure. Right, let's go here. As I said, today and tomorrow are going to be 2 demo sessions. What we're covering now, this is the Zoom link what we used just now. And very important here, today and tomorrow, or the demo session. 13 and 14, two or the demo sessions will be covering one or two topics, and followed by weekend, Saturday and Sunday, no classes, and actual class is starting on 17th. So your actual class is going to start on 17th July, starting with Monday. Monday we're starting that actual class. The timings remain same, whatever we are covering now. It's a 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., 2 hours starting from Monday. That's the 17th July 2023, starting with Monday. And this is a weekdays batch, Monday to Friday. Classes are from Monday to Friday. Once we start a course on 17th, it will go on till 21st, and again followed by this weekend off, no class on weekend. The timing is remain same, 8 a.m. IST to 10 a.m. IST. That's pretty much 10:30 p.m. EST to 12:30 a.m. EST in Eastern Time Zone. And the duration will be approximately 45 days. We'll be able to complete. And of course, this is going to be a paid training. The course fees is going to be 10K Indian rupees. So it's going to be 125 US dollars. And it's a online live classes. It may be either Zoom or the WebEx. I'm going to share that link. And it will be a purely on 19C versions. Whatever we're going to cover, it will be on 19C versions. Right. So that's about the course duration and the course timing. Again, remember it's a weekdays batch, Monday to Friday, and the timing is going to be 8 a.m. IST to 10 a.m. IST, 2 hours on every day. And then it will be a 45 days of course, and it's a online course, and it's a paid, which will be cost you around 10K, 10,000 Indian rupees or 125 US dollar. Right, that's a course durations and the course timing. And I believe already few people have registered, and I have added them to WhatsApp group. That will be talks about point number 6. Whoever register for this particular course will be added to a dedicated WhatsApp group, and all the communication will happen on that particular WhatsApp group. Any questions, queries will be discussed in that particular WhatsApp group, and that WhatsApp group will be like lifetime accessible WhatsApp group. And even completion of the course, you can post any questions or queries related to your work, or if you are stuck with any of the tasks in your organization, and you can post if you're getting any errors while doing any task in your organization, just post that screenshot error message, and anyone can answer in that particular group. Or if no one, I'll be there to answer that particular question. So that is for the communication, and that group will be available or accessible for lifetime access. So you can post any questions and queries even after completion of that particular course. That's one thing. And the other thing is I'll be conducting some extra sessions even after completion of the course. I'll be taking some advanced sessions like wallet issues, or it may be your OEM, or it may be Golden Gate, or it may be your data guard, or any of the extra topics I'll be planning to conduct, and I'll be communicating through that particular group. So you can feel free to attend those live sessions. Those are like extra sessions
Sir,
apart from.
sir, are you covering data guard topic?
We just explained about data guard, right? Chapter number, where is that one? Chapter number 18, your data guard architecture end to end. I just explained that. You might have missed that. Right. So I'm talking about some of the extra, what are the advantages of the WhatsApp group, right? You can post any questions and queries, not only on the course, even after completion of the course. We'll be happy to, help you on that. And also if there's any extra sessions or live sessions, I'll be communicating in those particular WhatsApp group. Right. So whatever this a Zoom link we are using here, this today's Zoom link, it's a public link which will be available only for today and tomorrow for this live demo classes. And whoever register for this particular course will be getting a new Zoom link or the Teams or WebEx link in our WhatsApp group. I'll be communicating. We'll be using that particular the private link for all the registered student for the further classes. And then that is about the WhatsApp group and the how we're going to attend the further classes. And the next point is about a Google Drive access. The Google Drive access will be having a 3 important Google Drive access. One is the course curriculum. One is the course material. I think who are registered for this particular course by making a payment, I already granted the access. One is course material. So the DBA course material, there will be a lot of folders inside that. So as and when we continue further classes, we will get to know when to use this all the folders. And inside all the folders, you have all the materials. Like if I can go to this lab exercise, we have all the labs and all the commands, whatever needed for the lab exercise. So whatever we're gonna cover, if you just open it, just copy and paste those commands. So all the lab exercise, all the labs will be attached over here. We'll be covering all this lab as and when we proceed with the classes. These are about lab exercise and DBA course materials and the PPTs, whatever the database course materials, whatever the PPT I opened here, and this is the same PPT, we'll be using it for entire course. And on the same PPT will be attached with this lab exercise. You can open the lab exercise. So it will be of the same lab, whatever you are seeing it on this Google Drive here. In the Google Drive, whatever the lab exercise you are seeing here, the same lab exercise will be attached to the PPT. You can refer the single PPT and all the lab, everything will be available over here. Right? That is one thing. That's the other part where the all the lab exercise, all the PPTs, all the quiz, all the ready VMs here. There you can see ready VMs that you no need to install and configure. Just download these VMs and within 1 minute your VMs or database or your ASM, everything will be ready. So we're going to talk about that in our actual classes. What are this ready VM, how we can configure that, how we can use that. So we'll do first installation, setup, configuration, everything from the scratch once. And once that is done, and you no need to do every time installation, you can just download this VM. Like these are like empty lab 1, empty lab 2, empty lab 3. These are your ready VMs, and this is your empty VM with the database created inside inbuilt on that. So your Oracle lab 2 ASM and database created inside that. You just need to download that particular lab into your local and then configure it. So that's a ready labs. Right there.
Malik, sorry. So these executables that you show, can they be used even in Mac or only you need a specific Windows laptop for
I'm
this?
gonna talk in the chapter number
Okay,
7,
fine.
prerequisites.
Yeah.
Great. So the Google Drive basically contains the very first link. That's about the course materials, all the course PPTs, lab exercise, all the ready VMs, everything you can get it over there. And we have one more link, that is my previous batch recordings. So I'll be granting access to the previous batch recordings. These are previous batch recordings. So these previous batch recordings, you can prepare well in advance by your own. You can go over and you can watch these previous batch recordings. For example, if you see uh, installation, like if I go with the chapter number 3, day 3, the standalone database installation, if you download it locally or you can watch it here in the Google Drive, just right click and download it, or you can watch it here. And what I'm doing it along with the recordings, whatever the command I'm typing it here on my lab exercise, on my lab here, let's put it, whatever the commands I'm typing it on my lab, all the commands will be uploaded along with the whatever recordings, like day 3 recordings and day 3 notepad. If you open that notepad, whatever the command I typed in my lab, all those commands will be available here. You just need to, when you are referring these videos, you just watch the videos. Along with that, you can practice it with this notepad. So this is my previous batch recordings. You'll be getting access on this previous batch recording so that you can watch this recording well in advance and you can attend the live classes so that you can ask more questions and make the session interactive. Right? That is a previous batch recording. You'll be getting access. And the other thing, will be getting one more important link on the Google Drive where you will see all the softwares, all the tools, all the interview questions and answers. Everything will be covered over here. So these are the interview questions and answers which will be like created and answers are written by my own. I'm not gonna refer anyone's blog or write the answers. So what is SP file and P file? So it's the answer written by me, so that once you go through this particular interview questions and documents at the end of the course, you'll be able to crack any interview. Right? That is important aspect. And then along with that, we'll be starting the new Google Drive. So right now we don't have it. That is a daily recordings. So as and when we covered today on day-to-day basis, this current ongoing batch will be record daily sessions and will be uploading it to the new Google Drive. So you can get access on that. You can watch them as well. So that is as good as your previous batch recordings, and this daily recordings are all one and going to be same. But there'll be a lot of interaction in the previous batch recordings compared with this batch. So it's a good to watch the previous batch recording as well, because many people will be asking many questions and you will get a answer to all of them. But along with the daily recordings, you'll be getting access on the previous batch recordings along with the notepads, commands, and you'll be getting a Google Drive access where you can see all the course PPTs, course book, lab exercise, and all the ready VMs, and followed by the other information like all the tools, all the softwares, all the interview questions and answers. These are like Google Drive access. And then how long we'll be having this access? Again, these are a lifetime accessible materials. You can access it throughout your lifetime. There is no restriction at all. And more than that, you can go ahead and download it into your local laptop. No restriction at all. You not necessarily access them from the Google Drive. Whatever access you'll be getting on the Google Drive, you can go ahead and download it locally on your laptop. No restriction at all. Right? So either you can download it locally and keep it in your laptop for lifetime, or these accessible available for lifetime in the Google Drive. You can use it in the Google Drive. No restriction at all. Right? That's for the Google Drive access. Everything will be single point where you can get the previous batch recording or ongoing batch recording, or all the course materials, PPTs, workbook, and all the softwares, all the interview questions and answers. Everything will be available there. And the Zoom link and the Teams link, WebEx link, I'll be sharing the new Zoom link, meeting ID, WebEx in my WhatsApp group for the registered students. Right? And then before going to this point number 7, let's say we understand that course curriculum, course content, and the what are the course structures and the timings and the fees. And the next question comes, how I can register for this course. As I said already, we got a few students are registered, and I have added them to WhatsApp group, and they already got access on the Google Drive. They're watching the previous batch recording from last 1 week or 2 weeks. So starting with the Monday, they will be attending the live classes. So you need to make a payment. Again, as I said, this the course is a paid, and you need to make a payment and confirm me back, and I'll be granting the access, and I'll be taking you further, and I'll be adding it to WhatsApp group, and further communication will be shared with individual who is registered. So for the payment, the next question will be how I can make a payment. So you can feel free to ping me on my WhatsApp number +91 9880 616 848, or drop me an email, or you can WhatsApp me or call me. I'll further guide you for the payment process. Anyway, I pinged in the chart here my WhatsApp number and email ID. You can connect with me one-to-one for the further payment processing and how we can do a registration, and then I'll take it further. Right, that's for the registration. Who are interested, you can feel free to connect with me on my WhatsApp or the email ID, whatever I posted on the chart, or you can take it over here on my screen here. I'm showing it. Right. That's about the course curriculum, fee structure, and the registration. Now let's understand the important point, the prerequisites.
I have one question, Malik. So actually, I was registered in previous batch, like 13 April batch.
Right.
So actually, I was missed lot of topic due to some.
I'll connect with you. Like, whoever registered for the previous batch, I will connect with you one-to-one, and we'll take it further how we can whom all can attend and what is the further process. Right, as I said, like, one more important point I would like to share it in this point. If you see this note section here, it's a one-time registration fee. Like, this is a course fee, you're gonna pay it one time, and you can attend multiple times. Multiple times in the sense, you can attend today, this time you paid, and you're not able to attend this particular session or this particular batch, and you can attend the next batch, but you have to provide the valid reason why you did not able to attend this particular batch. Maybe you went on some on-site due to some project need, or you went on some medical emergency, or you went on some personal reason. So you have to give a valid reason why you did not able to attend, and I'm happy to take you for next session as well, or it may be next different version I'm teaching it. I'm happy to take you on that, but you have to provide the valid reason why you did not attended that particular batch. And there's no restriction at all. You can, if you are justifying with a valid reason, and you are happy to take or you're happy to attend the next batch, right? I'll connect with them who are interested with the previous batch. We'll connect with, and then I'll provide the next plan of action, right? Coming to that important point, the point number 7, the prerequisites. So this will be course based upon RHEL or Linux. So we'll not be covering anything related to Windows. So many people will ask, are you going to cover that database installation, configuration, administration on Windows? No, we are not going to cover. This is based upon only Linux, RHEL or VL. So this course will be based upon the Oracle virtual machine, whatever the ready labs I just talked about here, whatever these ready labs, ready VMs will be based upon a Windows laptop. We don't have anything on the Mac, and if you're using any Mac OS or Apple, whatever it is, so we don't have any lab or ready lab on the Windows on the Mac. So you have to install by your own based upon what I'm going to teach it for the first time. So if you have any questions and queries are stuck on that particular, I'm happy to help you, because I worked on Mac and also configured on Mac. I know what are the access and what are the issues and all, right? So it will be based upon Windows hypervisor, Windows laptop or Windows OS, and whatever the training will be based upon Linux. We'll be installing it on Linux, not on Windows, but your platform will be Windows, because these all labs will work on the Windows platform. If you're using a Mac or Apple, any other product, so you have to install your hypervisor on that, and any questions or queries or stuck on that, I'm happy to help on that. But it's a purely all the labs are based upon Windows, right? So basics of SQL. So if you're learning this particular database course, you are attending for this particular database course. So if you are already know basics of SQLs, that will be added advantages. You're going to be easily catch up all the commands, all the queries I'm going to type it. But if you don't know this basics of SQL, you're going to be little challenging. But I'll be covering whatever the SQL commands needed for the DBA for day-to-day operation. I'll be covering all those commands in this particular course. But if you are willing to, you're very new and you don't have any background, and that's going to be a little challenging, and then I'm going to handle it in the weekends. I'll come to that point in a minute. And the second point is basics of Linux. So if you know the basics of Linux command, and this particular course will be very easy. You can easily understand and you can easily practice it. And if you don't know these basics of Linux, so again, as I said, whatever the basic commands needed for SQL for Linux will be covered in this particular daily classes, will be covered those basic commands. But who are new, totally new, and we don't know anything about basics, we don't know anything about Linux. So what I'll do for these guys who are very new, and I have lot of pre-recorded sessions, the basic recordings of the Linux and SQLs. I'll be granting the access on those basic Linux and the SQL commands. For those who are very new, don't know anything, you can go through all those recordings. Those are like 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minutes, small recording, and you can get ready for that along with this particular course. And also on top of that, if you have any questions and queries, I'm happy to connect with all these new guys on the weekends. Either it may be Saturday or Sunday, and then whatever the questions, whatever the queries, or if you want to cover me some of the basics of Linux and SQL, I'll take few extra sessions only on Saturday and Sunday for those who don't know anything about the Linux and uh, SQLs. Okay, I'll take it as a either a extra classes on Saturday and Sunday, or either Saturday or Sunday, and then I can get them to the speed. That's the one thing I can do it. On top of that, as I said, already having a lot of basics of recordings, I'll grant you on that directory access. You can go ahead and then watch your by own. It will be like 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minutes, small videos that'll make you up to the speed. Right. Other thing is the lab will be set up on your laptop. So labs will be set up on your laptop. For this, we need a minimum of 8 GB RAM. We need a minimum of 8 GB RAM. That's a mandate. You should have 8 GB RAM. If you don't have 8 GB RAM, you will not be able to set up a lab. You have to just watch whatever I'm teaching or whatever the command I'm executing. You'll not be able to do a hands-on exercise if you don't have a 8 GB of RAM in your laptop. That's a minimum. We need a minimum of 8 GB of RAM. If you have 16 GB or 32 GB or 24 GB, that is more than enough. That is like, you work as a real-time lab. If you're working on the 8 GB or like 16 GB or 24 GB RAM or 32 GB RAM, you have it in your laptop. The labs will be work as like as good as your real-time servers. So, but with the 8 GB, there will be little slow, but still you can manage it. Minimum, we need a 8 GB RAM on the laptop to do a lab setup, and we need a minimum of 100 GB SSD. So SSD hard disk will be much more faster. If you have a HDD, so again labs will be little slower. If you have a SSD 100 GB hard disk, and the labs will be much more faster, you can practice. And these are like labs look like real-time servers for any of the client. Right, these are the prerequisites. Any questions here? I'll give a pause for 1 or 2 minutes if anyone has any questions on the prerequisites or anything on the course registration or the course payment or the course curriculum or the course timing or the course content.
Malik, can you repeat that first point, RHEL for
The
Linux?
whatever the installation of database will be on Linux, not on Windows.
Okay.
All right. Few questions on the chart here. Can you provide materials for certification? Yes, of course. Whatever the materials I just now explained, all the PPTs, workbook, lab exercise, all these materials. And once you practice and once you work on this, once you complete this particular course, you will be able to appear for your Oracle certification. It may be OCA and OCP, any of that. You can able to do these certifications after completion of this course, because we have all the materials and all the recordings, and you have to practice and you have to appear for the exam. You'll be able to crack the exam, right? And at the, as I said, end of the course, we'll be covering that certifications, how we can do that one. What are the certifications IDs? It's a 1Z0, 0, 82, 83, admin and 19C, admin 1 and admin 2. That's a pretty much OC and OCP. So I'm going to talk about that, how we can do that certifications, how we can register for the certifications will be covered over there. Right, there's one more question in the chart here. Oracle DBA is different from that track DBA. Yes, Oracle DBA is a basic foundation. You have to first learn Oracle DBA. Once you are comfortable and learn this Oracle DBA, then go for a rack. Rack is advanced than the DBA. Rack is the second step of. And any Linux basics classes, yes, as I said, the Linux and SQL, I will grant you access on the basic recordings. You can watch them. And also if any particular sessions, queries, questions, I'm happy to take it on the weekends, either Saturday or Sunday. I will take few extra sessions. Whatever, whoever new or don't know about this Linux basics and SQL basics, feel free to join those sessions on weekends. Right. Right. Again, one more question just now Shiva has pinged. Provide the classes on SQL's basics. Yes, as I said, like, the basics of SQLs and basics of Linux will be covered as a extra sessions or already pre-recorded session. You can watch them. And if you go to your note section here, and we already have a lot of SQLs. If you go here, SQLs folder, and in that there is a SQL note. I already written this particular note is written by me. It is not copied from anywhere. These are the end to end the writings by me, and you can just go through all these materials. You will be able to understand. And again, there are so many pre-recorded sessions. You can watch them. You'll be able to understand. And on top of that, I'm happy to take any sessions on the weekends, either Saturday and Sunday. Anything on the basics of SQLs or basics of Linux, they're gonna make it right. Let's continue now. Any questions so far? Right.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yeah.
Sir, along with this code DBA part and rack, and what else we need to learn to survive in this industry for long? And what are the advanced topics and what else we?
There is a lot of things. That is basically you're talking about what is the long-term goal and what is the career opportunities and
Yes.
what is the next step in the career. So if I start explaining, like 1 hour is not enough. There's a different path you can take. Once you've learned the DBA, whether you want to go with the application side or whether you want to go with the engineering system or whether you want to go with the code DBAs. Again, it depends upon the which role you are appearing it. Junior DBA, senior DBA, SME, subject matter expert, or your database architect or solution architect or infrastructure lead. Uh, there are so many positions. Based upon which positions what you are targeting, and you have to learn the different products. You want to go with application side, you have to learn your EBS, OBI. If you want to learn your engineering system, you have to learn your Exadata, Exalogic, Supercluster, VODA, and ZFS. And if you want to go with the infrastructure lead or SME or your database architect or solution architect, you have to learn your clouds. It may be OCI or AWS, or you have to learn your DevOps. Then you can go for a database architect or solution architect or infrastructure lead, or you can, it may be your SME. So again, at the end of the course, we're going to talk about that in the career guidance. What are the next step? But for this particular course, if you complete this database course, you can pretty much, you can work as a Oracle DBA for with a 1 to 4 years of experience. And once you learn the rack course, that's other training, you can pretty much work from the 4 year to 7 or 8 years of experience, you can work it. And once you complete your 8 years of experience, then it comes for what next. It may be your EBS, OBI, PeopleSoft, SOA, or it may be your engineering system, Exadata, Exalogic, Supercluster, ZFS, VODA, or it may be your SME or solution architect or database architect. You have to learn your cloud or the DevOps and other things. So based upon your years of experience and the roles what you are looking for, that matters. That's going to give you your career path. And you can choose any one of that based upon the experience.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry if it is not a relevant question here now, sir. What would be the basic package for a code DBA currently?
No, that we can take it offline, not for now.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any questions, guys, on the keynote?
Sir,
Anything?
I have one question. So suppose if I have a problem in Mac setup, so can we use any cloud VM for the live setting?
Yes, you can do that. If you have cloud VM, you can do that.
Hi, sir. For L1 role, DBA is okay. Oracle DBA or
Right.
no?
You can work it as L1 or L2 DBA after completion of this course.
Okay.
Right. When it comes to L2, L3 and L4, and that will be a rack. L1 and L2, like L1 is a basic monitoring, just assigning the ticket, monitoring the ticket, and working on the day-to-day activities. And L2 DBA it comes support your backups, restore, recoveries, and performance tuning. All L1 and L2 role, you can pretty much work after completion of this course. When it comes to L3 and L4, that's where you need a rack and your cloud expertise, and you should have more than 5-6 years of experience, and that's your L3 and L4 role. But for L1 and L2, that pretty much this course you can work it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Malik, will you be able to take any classes for cloud support for
No.
to become any SME?
All right. Let's quickly, I'll give again 1 more minute if anyone has any questions. If not, then I can quickly cover 1 or 2 topics for today, and followed by tomorrow I can cover further topics. That so far, whatever we covered, it's all purely what we're going to plan it for next course of 40-45 days, and what is the course content, course curriculum, and what it will be covered and what is not covered, and how that course materials, course timing, course fee structure, everything works. That's all just we explain what are the prerequisites for this particular database course. That's what we covered so far. And very important is the WhatsApp group. It will be like lifetime accessible group. You can post any questions and queries even after completion of the course. And the Google Drive access. The Google Drive access, again, that's a lifetime accessible materials. Everything is available over there. Even you can, no restriction on that. You can download it and you can use it. All right, quickly jump on simple understanding on the database architecture or the database connectivity. So let's say I will just give a generic, like, brief. This may be a pure basics, not related to any DBA or anything. Like, let's say I can just in the layman term, I try to explain it. Right. So my organization, like, say abc.com. So my organization, like, wipro.com, infosys.com, or oracle.com. This is my organization. So my organization, I have a data center. I have a data center. Let's say I have a data center in London. Let's say I'll put it. I have a data center here. I think it's in London. Let's say I'm just giving a brief idea. In London, sorry. So in London, I have a data center, and then in the data center, I have so many servers. Let's say I have a few of the Windows servers. I have few of the Linux servers. These all are my servers, so many servers for database, for application, for middleware, so many. In order to run my business, I need hundreds of servers. Any organization, they need hundreds of servers. It may be database server, or it may be application server, or it may be middleware, or whatever it is, like hundreds of servers on the London. Very first thing, these servers are maybe a physical server or maybe virtual server or virtual machines, physical machines or your virtual machines. Whatever the servers you're seeing it on the data center, it may be a physical server or the virtual machine. The physical servers are the physical setup, like, whatever the desktop you set up in your lab or in your home, it has a CPU, it has a monitor, entire physical setup. That's a physical machine. So you'll be having a physical server, or it may be virtual machines. Virtual machines in the any of the cloud, AWS, or it may be Azure or OCI or GCP, any of the cloud vendor, or it may be VMware or Nutanix, any hypervisor. You can get a VM from any vendor. So your servers may be VM or maybe physical machine. Physical machines is physically available on your data center. Virtual machines, not a physical machines, provided by any of the vendor. It may be vCenter, vSphere, or OCI, any of the cloud vendor, or Nutanix, or any of the hypervisor. You'll be getting any of those VMs, right? And these physical machines are these VMs, right? Any one of that. It doesn't matter for me whether it's a physically available or virtually. Doesn't matter. That's just a server. And this server may be Windows, that may be Windows server, or that may be Linux server. In Linux, it may be RHEL. RHEL is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux, or it may be Ubuntu, or it may be SUSE, or it may be AIX, or anything. First thing is the server, whatever the server in your data center, it may be physical server or the virtual machine, doesn't matter for me. I can install my database on physical server. I can install my database on virtual machine. It may be anything. So Linux admin will take care of that. The physical machine or virtual machine, he will take care of that. And based upon what you want, whether you want a Windows machine, you want a Windows physical server, or you want a Windows virtual machine, Linux admin will provide you. Or you want a Linux physical machine or Linux VM, again, your Linux admin will do that. So we just need to tell him whether I need a physical machine or whether I need a VM. He will provide me. Or your organization will decide whether to go with the physical machine or the VMs. But what we need to do, whether it is a Windows or Linux, right? So anything. Sometimes you can say this is your Oracle Lab 1. Oracle Lab 1, and this is your Oracle Lab 2. So your Oracle Lab 1 is Windows. Your Oracle Lab 1 is a Windows server, and your Oracle Lab 2 is Linux server. Again, in the Linux, as I said, it may be RHEL, it may be OEL or Ubuntu, SUSE or anything. So, and then I can say this one is Oracle Lab 3. This is Oracle Lab 3. And this is your Oracle Lab 4. So I'm giving just a hypothetical example here. I have a Lab 1, that is a Windows, and I have a Lab 2, that's a Linux. I have a Lab 3, again Windows. And then I have a Lab 4, again that's a Linux. Let's say Lab 1 and Lab 2 are the physical server. This is my physical server, and this is my physical server. And then Lab 3, Lab 4 are my VM, virtual machine. Doesn't matter for me. So in order to access your Lab 1 physical Windows machine, or Lab 3 VM Windows machine, or Lab 2 a physical Linux machine, Lab 4 VM Linux machine, anything, in order to access them, the one way is, let's say physical machines or the VM machine. One way is straight away go to your data center and sit in front of the laptop or sit in front of the physical machines and then start working on that. Like as good as turning on your physical setup on your home, the physical, whatever the desktop you have it, turn it on with the keyboard and monitor and you start working on that. So that is a physically going to data center and accessing it. So that is not the ideal way how the industry works. So whatever these physical machines, whatever this Lab 1, Lab 3, Lab 2, Lab 4, we are going to access it remotely, being anywhere, being in India, being in US, being in any of the world, any of the part of the world, you can access these machines remotely. Whether it's a Windows machines or whether it's a Linux machines, whether it's a physical or VM, we are going to access remotely. We're going to access remotely. When it comes to Windows, we have a RDP, remote desktop protocol, that is a built-in with your Windows machines. If you go to Windows and you search for remote RDP, remote desktop connection, you just go with that remote desktop connection, and with the help of this remote desktop connections, the computer name, you're going to just give the computer name. It may be your Lab 1 or Lab 3, Lab 1 or Lab 3. You're going to just give that name of the computer and then connect it. You're going to remotely connect to your remote servers which are available in your data center. That is your Windows server, right? For the Windows, we're going to use that RDP. And for the Linux server, whether it's a physical or virtual machines, we have many tools, like, we have a PuTTY session is the one thing. We have PuTTY or mobile extreme, right? So PuTTY or mobile extreme or terminal sessions. Let's say here, whatever you're seeing here, this is a mobile extreme. Whatever the black screen you're seeing it here, it's a mobile extreme. Right, this is my mobile extreme. With the help of this mobile extreme, I am able to connect to Oracle Lab 1, and I can go to PuTTY session here. Like I have PuTTY software, and then I can give that IP address or the host name, the server which is available in my remote data center, and I can connect with that. Right? That is how you can access your servers. That server may be Windows or server may be Linux, or that server may be physical server or the virtual machine, doesn't matter. My Linux admin will provide that servers, and then I can remotely access those servers. And then, as I said, this particular course, what we are covering is about the Linux servers. And we're working on the virtual machine. We don't have any physical server. We're working on the virtual machines in our own laptop. In our own laptop, we are creating the VMs, and then we are accessing them remotely, and then we are installing the database over there. Right, that's a layman term, general overview as a DBA or any organization, how we are going to access the servers remotely. If it's a Windows, we use a RDP. If it's a Linux server, we use that putty session. That's a tool, or mobile extreme. That's a terminal tool. With the help of those tools, we're going to access those servers. Once we are able to access those servers, let's say I'm able to access my lab one, which is a Linux server. If I do cat etc OS release, and they're going to tell me it's a Oracle Linux server VL and 7.9. So I'm able to access my Linux server. It may be physical server, or it may be virtual machine, doesn't matter for me. That's be created by my Linux admin. And here, once I get access on the server, I can go ahead and then install my database. It may be 11G, 12C, 19C. I can go ahead and install the database over here. Right. Let's say what I'll do now. I'll say I'll put one more server. Right. So this is my Oracle Lab 1.
Malik, I have one.
Yep.
One question. So it is, in the application also database be installed on the server, or can they access remotely from that server as well?
Which one? Come again. I lost your question in the middle. Come again.
Can you hear me, Malik? Can you hear me?
I think you have
Hello.
no, you have an internet issue. Just post your questions. I'll answer that. Right. Let's take here. What I explained is either your server is Windows or whether your server is Linux, doesn't matter. Your Linux admin will provide that Windows server or the Linux server, or whether it's a physical server, VM server, your Linux admin will create it in your data center, and then he will grant the access. And then if it's a Windows, I will connect with the RDP. And if it's a Linux, I'll connect with the putty session or mobile extreme, or there may be some other tools to access your Linux server. We'll connect that one. Right. Once we're able to access, let's say I'm giving this example here. Now I'm concentrated on this particular server here. So I got a Linux server, Oracle Lab 1, and inside that, once you get a RDP access or the mobile extreme putty session, we can go ahead and install the database. It may be 11G, 12C, 19C, whatever the database, we install it. So right now, I have this Lab 1. I have installed this DBA database. This is my DBA database. I installed it. I created inside that lab. So let's go here on that particular lab. So I connected to my Oracle Lab 1, and if I do ps-f grep smon, and I can see my DB instance got created, means I installed my database. Once the Linux admin created the Linux server and given the access to me, and then I created as a DBA, I created this DB. Again, as part of the course, we're going to cover that the installation, configuration, and all of them. But now I'm giving an overall example. Now I'm connected to my DB. So DB is the database I connected. So let's say you have, I'll go with one more session. Give me a second here. I'll take this screenshot. Sorry. I want this one. That's why now I'm taking this session. Okay. Now let's take a new session now. Right now, I'll remove that data center part. We understand the data center. There will be data center remote server in the remote location. It may be London, Washington DC, New York, or New Jersey or wherever it is. You have a data center. In that data center, you have hundreds of Linux server or Windows server. Your Linux admin will provision all of them. And after that, he will grant access to DBAs. We DBA log into those servers. If it's a Windows, we use RDP. If it's a Linux, we use a PuTTY or mobile extra, and we'll connect to those servers and we will install the database. Right. In my case here, Oracle Lab 1. Oracle Lab 1 Linux server is created by Linux admin, and inside that I have created a database, DevDB. Right. The DevDB database is created, and I'm a DBA. I have access on the server because I only created this database. I have access on this particular DevDB database. How I can access that one? Let's say this is the lab 1, and then I got access as a Oracle user. If I do ps-f grep smon, right now I logged into the servers. I logged into the server. I'm inside the server. You can see Oracle Lab 1 is a server. I logged in with the Oracle user. Oracle is the OS user. And if I exit and if I do su Malik, and then right now ID and then Malik has logged in here. And then if I exit and then now root has logged in. This is the username. Whatever the username you're seeing it here, that's the user he logged in. So if I say, let's say I have this Malik user and Oracle user. So let's say your Linux admin is going to add one more user. User add John. So the John user, John exit file already exit. Okay, let's say user add Jeff. So I'm just going to create one more user, Jeff. So I'm just going to give passwd. Right. Now, if I do login to Jeff, so now your Jeff user logged in. So any DBA, your Linux admin will create his own individual ID. It may be Malik or it may be Jeff, John, whatever the DBA, he is going to create their individual ID in that particular Linux server. And we need to log in with our user ID. Like right now, Jeff is user, login, or else let's say Malik. So I logged into the server with the Malik user, I logged in, or just go with the Jeff user. We just now created Jeff, like Jeff user connected to server. Now he wants to connect to the database. Right now, Jeff is a user who connected to server. He connected to server. With the server, he need to access a database. Whatever the DB database, he need to access this one. How a DBA, like Jeff is a DBA, how he can do the moment he log in with his ID, we is going to write ps-f grep smon. What is the database name or the instance name? Just by running this ps command, process command, smon is one of the background process. I'm listing it out. Again, we'll understand in our actual classes what is this smon. So DevDB is a database, and this is the instance name. This instance is created with the Oracle user. Oracle is the owner for that database. Okay, let me log into Oracle user. Let's say Vasu Oracle. Right now, we logged into that Oracle user. Oracle is the owner of that particular DB database. And I can simply use SQL plus /as sysdba. It is called a OS authentication. So before that, we need to set the environment. So we'll talk about that. What is this .warinv in our regular classes? And now, once you log in with Oracle user, you are going to simply run SQL plus sysdba, which is going to connect to your database. So with the help of a Jeff user, I logged into Oracle user. Jeff is a DBA logged into the server first, and later he understand Oracle is the owner. Oracle is the user who has installed that database, and then he did a SU Oracle. So once you connect to that Oracle user, you're going to use OS authentication SQL plus /as sysdba, and then you will go inside the database, and then you are inside the database, so you can manage any of the operations. Right, that is the easiest way. DBA first directly connect to server, and after connecting to server, check the user, who is the user created that database. Oracle is the user created that database and then switch to that particular switch. SU stands for switch user to that Oracle, and you logged into Oracle user and just use SQL plus SSDB to connect to database. That's fair enough. So DBA can directly connect to server and connect to database. And if anyone connect to remotely, if anyone wants to connect to remotely, let's say anyone, like, this is a client 1 and client 2 and client 3 and your application team 1. So let's say these are the clients. Client 1 and client 2 and then client 3 and then client 4. So many clients. The client can use application, or the client can use a browser, or the client can use a client, SQL client or SQL client, or client can use any other tool or desktop, right? Any one of that. Client may be from US, UK, or any other reason. My database is in London. They want to connect to my database. The client is just want to connect to database. For the DBAs, we DBA first connect to server. From the server, we'll go to that Oracle user. From the Oracle user, we use SQL plus and we'll connect to database. DBAs are fine. If the client in US having 1,000 clients and the client in UK having around 10K, 10,000 clients, and users in Singapore and around 500 users, and then users in any of California, and then they're like around 1,000 users. And do we need to create this 1,000, 10,000, 500 and all these 1,000 users at the OS level? That's not how it works. These are your actual clients. They may connect using application or browser or SQL client or any of the tools. They use it and they will connect it. They don't have access on the servers. They just need access on the database. And only server level, DBAs will be having access. DBAs will be having access. We connect to servers and to manage the database. And the clients will directly connect to database. And how they will connect to database? In order to connect to database, these clients should know certain parameters. These clients should know DB name. In case DB name is DevDB, and they know server name. They need to know server name. The server name is my Oracle Lab 1 here. Oracle Lab 1. And they should know on which port your database is configured. My database is configured 1521. And they should know on which protocol the database is listening or running. It's a TCP. They should know all of them. As a DBA, while creating this database, we create something called a listener. In this particular server, we create something called listener. And in this particular listener, we're going to define the port and the protocol and the server and the DB name. So basically DB name is nothing but service name, we call it. So again, when in our real classes, we'll talk about that. We define, while the port is 1521 default and protocol default is a TCP, and the server is your Oracle Lab 1 and the DB name is DevDB. So this is your listener. We create a listener here. Along with the database creation, we create something called listener. And while creation of this listener, we define all this protocol, port, and server, and the DB name. So that is your listener. And so that with help of this listener, this client will pass this connection details and he can directly connect to the database. He no need to create that OS level user. So the listener file looks like this. If I can go to my servers, right? So if I go to my servers and if I do cat of listener, and this is my listener file, listener, my protocol TCP, host, and the port. So I'm gonna provide this listener ps-f grep TNS So this is your listener you created along with the database as a DBA. Along with the database creation, I'm going to create this listener. In the listener, I'm going to define that port, protocol, server name, and the database details. And if I do ps-ef grep tns, my listener is up and running here. lsnrctl status listener, and then my DB database service is listening under that particular listener. So once your listener is up and running here, this any of the client, they can directly connect from this. Any of the client from any of the region, they can directly connect to my database with all these details. As a DBA, we need to give all these details to the client. The client can connect. So just to demonstrate on that perspective, I will connect with one SQL developer. Let's quickly connect to my SQL developer here. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'll just open my SQL developer and then I can show it client how they will connect to my database. Give me a second here. What happened? Okay, can you guys able to see my SQL developer here?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Let's see. This is one of the client. Like if say this particular client. Okay, here SQL client. It may be your SQL developer. So this particular client, client 3, he installed this SQL developer. That's one of the client tool, SQL client tool. There may be hundreds of client tool in the market. SQL developer is one of the client tool. So he is trying to connect to my database now. My database is running under this particular Oracle Lab 1, and I have given these all details, the DB name, the host name, and the protocol and the port. I given it to all these details to this client. Let's say the same details I have given this client, and this client will go to SQL developer and he will do new connection. Right. So new connections, just say DevDB new, he'll give it's a name, any name you can give, DevDB connection. Okay. This client 3 want to connect to my database, and first I need to create a user for him inside my database. How he is going to connect it? Right. So for that he will ask, okay, can you give me access on this DevDB? And DBA, how we can connect? As a DBA, I'll go to my server. I'll just run this SQL plus SS DBA. Right. I have connected to a DevDB, and I'm going to create user client 3 identified by client 3. Right. The client 3 user created inside my database. I'm a DBA. The client will send a request. I need to create this user, and then I'll connect as a DBA. I'll connect to database using this SQL plus SS DBA. I'm going to create the user. Grant. I'm going to grant any permission. Grant. I'll just get DBA. Ideally not DBA. Create session to client 3. So I'm going to create client 3 sessions. So I'm giving access. So if client has a access to server, the client can connect as like DBA. How we DBA connect using SQL plus, he can also connect SQL plus client 3 followed by his password, and then he can able to connect. Show user. So he can able to connect to a database. But the problem is the client 3 will not be having this OS access. What's the use? Why we should give that OS access to the clients? Clients needs only database access. We never ever give that Oracle password or the Jeff user password or any of this Linux OS user password to clients. We just create that client details, client username and password inside the database. We will share that username and password to the client. Okay, we created client 3 username and client 3 password inside the database, and then we give all these TNS details. These clients will connect to database without interacting to the server. How they can connect? They know that now they got to know their user is client 3 and the password is client 3. They'll give that password here. Let's say client 3 is a username and client 3 is a password for them. And what's the host name? They have to give that host name. This is the host name here, Oracle Lab 1. So now I'm going to use the IP address. Instead of host name, I can use either you can use the host name or the IP address is one and same. I'm going to use the host name or the IP address. You can use whatever you want, host name or IP address, everything works. And the port 1521, I already given that the port 1521. And then the SID or the service name is your database name. So you can either go with SID or service name. I'll go with the service name or SID, all are same, DB. And you can do a test connection. Right, you can say it's a success. And then now we can go ahead and then connect. Right, the client is connected, DB, new connection here. Let's connect extra. It will take 1 more minute. Right, so you can see DB new connections established here, and run the show user, and then execute here. Right, user is client. It's the same command what you're gonna run it over here. If the client is able to connect to server, they can use SQL plus client 3, they can connect and do show user, and then they can able to connect. Right, that's a good part. So again, what I'm trying to say here, if I'm a DBA, I'll be access on the server and I can log into that Oracle user. I can directly use SQL plus SSDBA, and then I can connect to database, and I can do manage anything inside my database. And because DBA will be having access on the server level, will be having access on the database level, because we are the one who can manage the database, and server will be managed by Linux admin. But some of the server related stuffs related to my database, we will manage it. But the client who wants to connect, they are gonna connect. Give me a second. The client who is gonna connect to my database, and their username and password need to be created inside the database. And after, who is going to create that username and password inside the database? DBA, we create that username and password inside the database. And then it is our job to create the listener while creation of your database. And that listener, while creation, you're going to define your protocol and the port and the server name and the database name, everything on the time of database creation, listener creation, we're going to create it. And once your listener is created and up and running, your client can directly connect to database using those provided username, password, and all the TNS details, whatever we created with the listener, we'll give all the details, and the client can connect to my database and they can do any operations. It may be any transaction they're going to do it. All right. Any questions here so far on the connection part?
Hello. Sir, on the mobile external, you have given only the username and password. You did not enter the service name out there. And then even though the connection got connected, how is it? Can you please open that mobile external session?
That's what I explained here. When you connected to mobile external, that's a server. In the server, you connected to Oracle. Oracle is the owner of the database. And you no need to give service name and all. Just go exit and do ps-ef grep smon. And DB is the database. This database is created or installed by Oracle user. Once you logged in with the Oracle user, you no need of service name or nothing. You just need to connect to database, SQL plus, and directly connect to the database because you are the owner of the database.
Sir, but if the more than one databases are there, then how the connection will be established?
That's what I told here. I'm not going to talk about that. That will be too much. This is the command I use here. .varinv. You have to run that one. The moment you run the .varinv, it's going to ask you which database you want to set the environment. I set it DevDB, and right now your environment is set to DevDB. If I do env environmental variable, and grep for Vora. Right now it is all set to DevDB. Even if you're running hundreds of databases, the moment you run this SQL plus, it will not directly connect to your DevDB because your environment is all set to DevDB. So if I talk about that .vora.env, I'm going to take a lot of time now. That's why I said I'm not going to talk about this .vora.env. We'll talk it in our actual class. So if you're running 10 or 20 database, first you need to run this .vora.env, set the environment, which database you want to connect. All right.
Sir, how the same thing will be in the multi-tenant database?
Again, that's not at this point. All right.
Hello, good morning, Malik sir.
Yep.
Yeah, as you shown that connection the client side to the data center. For practicing, we can also have some free available like a server so that we can practice also. Suppose our desktop or laptop, we don't have.
You have,
that.
that's what we're doing, right? These are the ready VMs here. We have so many labs here. You are
Hmm.
going to configure the labs on your laptop and you're going to connect remotely. That's our first chapter. In the first chapter, if you see here, we're going to talk about setting up of our own environment. We're going to set up our own Linux servers, and then we're going to install our databases. After that, you can either use a mobile extern or you can use your client tool to connect. That's all will be practiced.
Okay.
All right. So
I have Malik, one question. You were speaking of the listener parameters. So just forgetting about the client side, how come a DBA know that the listener parameters are perfectly fine and working for a client side application?
again, we'll
Can
extend.
he check
That's what
is there any comment?
there's a separate chapter. That's what I explained in the chapter number 11. It's all about listeners, networking, listener.ora, tns.ora, SQLnet.ora, SQL developer. That's what I showed here. This is a SQL developer. With SQL developer,
Okay.
how you can connect to it. You can. This is a separate chapter we'll be talking about in our actual classes. For now, what I'm trying is
Okay.
as a DBA, we'll connect to server. We just connect using SQL plus. We'll connect to the database and we'll manage, administrate. And at the client side, we're going to give all the client connection details with any of the client tool. It may be application or it may be browser or it may be SQL client in case I use SQL developer as a client, or it may be desktop. Any of the tool they're going to use and they're going to directly connect to my database without connecting to the server.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Malik sir, I want to know that all that commands I need to write down in my notepad, and else you will provide the command.
I explained, right? So today I'm recording, and along with the recording, I'm gonna copy all this notepad. I'll be attaching with in the sessions. If you see these recordings here, these are my previous batch recordings. If I go to day 5 recordings, and along with that notepad, if I open that day 5, whatever the command I'm running it here in my command line, all those commands will be available. You just need to watch the recordings and copy the command from the notepad and practice it along with the watching the recordings.
Okay, thank you.
Malik, I have one doubt. Will you provide any session for the migration?
No.
Okay.
All right, so let's stop it for now. If no more questions, we'll connect with tomorrow in continuation. We'll understand the installation process and the architecture part and the difference between the standalone and rack and the CRD files and other stuffs, some of the basics concepts. Right. Any questions so far before we wind up for today?
Suppose I just need to create the user in the database. So for the particular user, we just need to put it out the listener entry.
You need to create a user.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing called users. Users has to be created inside the database.
Okay.
That's what we created inside the database. This is one of the simple command of what we just now showed. Just like, let's say one more time. This is a client 3. We just connected as a DBA. I have connected to database using this SQL plus. I have to create the command. I have to create the user. The end user you need to create inside database. Once you create it, then they can able to connect using their whatever the client tools.
Thank you.
All right. let's stop it here now. If no questions, let's connect with tomorrow. We'll continue further with the further discussion on database architecture and different installation types and the CID files and the difference between the rack and then the standalone database. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Malik.